The recording has now started. We will do our best from here and see what happens.
The recording has now started. Please prepare yourselves.
Alright, so... I did not prepare an intro or anything. I never really thought about that. I just kind of wanted to get into it and show off the interesting things and go down memory lane again with you, because it's been a while since we played Trigger Hatty Havoc, and we can go over just how much things have changed since then.
I'm not sure what I was expecting, but yeah, okay, sure.
This is what happens when you have someone who did not think this out properly when we started recording, because I was just not thinking about it. Oh well, whatever. We ball.
Hello everyone, I am the Parafox Archangel, the English gentleman of the internet, and I'm joining Rookie today on his video as he tries to take me down memory lane, going back down Trigger Hatty Havoc, so he can give himself a confidence boost in seeing how far he has progressed in his ability to make things.
Yay! Growth, I think. Alright, so... Now, the first one we're supposed to go down is Trial 1, but there's something special I prepared. I went through a new save file. That's why my character has, like, no pawns, no yarn, and no timepieces right now.
And yet, you are a statue minion.
Well, that's a mod.
Okay. I honestly looked at that and thought, wait, is that the Death Wish reward? Did you finish Death Wish or something?
No. There is a Death Wish reward that makes Hat Kid look Snatcher-like, purple with glowing yellow eyes and a mouth, but that's a different cosmetic. The minion one is a playable character mod. I actually have a bunch of those installed.
Fair enough then.
However, you remember how Trial 5 works, right? Where you have to have a Deadbird winner, and that determines your starting route, correct?
Yeah.
Let's see what happens when we have not progressed that far yet. It'll load eventually.
Oh, I know. These things always take time. Honestly, I'm quite interested to see what this actually turns into.
A major reason as to why the trials tended to take forever to load was because I did not optimize the trials well at all. It was my first time making these things. And
honestly, that's understandable. Optimization always comes last in programming.
Yeah.
I've done enough programming in my time to know that all too well.
Another problem was the fact that because of the way I handled asset creation, I did not realize just how much space certain file sizes were certain files were taking up. All of the character sprites, I could have easily just had them be like 512 by 512 or 1024 by 1024. Instead, it was 2048 by 2048. That made it freaking huge. And that was for every character sprite. That's why it took forever to load.
Fair enough, then.
I eventually realized, oh, this is taking up too much space. I need to downsize everything. I mean, they're simple-looking cartoon character pictures anyway. It shouldn't have been a huge deal.
Well, I mean, at least that's one way you can obviously see you've improved. That's a learning curve.
Yeah. Alright, so, Trial 5. This is how it starts if you do not have a Deadbird winner. I'm going to read off the text. Okay, so, apparently the trigger to start the trial is set to undecided, which means you're not far enough in the main game for my level to judge something that is integral to it. You'll have to get through the main game first before you can actually do this. I'm sorry, but that's how the trial works.
And it boots you.
Yep. Trial 5 cannot be started until you pick a Deadbird winner.
Sorry, you have not progressed in the game far enough. Please play the actual main game before you try modding the hell out of it. Have some respect for the original developers.
Playing through the beginning act of A Hat in Time was definitely interesting, because I forgot just how little they actually used Mustache Girl. Like, holy crap, they really screwed her over as much as possible.
Yeah, she kind of really just showed up as, hey, I'm the main villain, and then she just never shows up until you fight the main villain.
Yeah, and even before then, you wind up having to save her like 2 or 3 times. Like, the first time you meet her, she introduces herself by beating up Mafia. Then the second time you meet her is during the barrel attack incident, where she is being attacked for trying to blow everything up, which, that's on brand for Mustache Girl. The third time you have to save her is when she has a bunch of Mafia throwing cans at her right before the boss fight. The third time was during the boss fight, because one of the cutscenes that plays out during the boss fight has Mustache Girl hanging from a rope tied up and yelling, "Let go of me, you psycho!" So you have to save her 3 times in the only point of the game where she's actually relevant. So it's like...
it was an interesting way of doing it.
It's like these guys did not like Mustache Girl all that much, did they?
No, they definitely could have done more with her.
There was a scene that I remember that was supposed to happen with Subcon Force. She was apparently supposed to show up there and make fun of Snatcher, then get kicked out of the forest. But honestly, that would probably be like a band-aid on a gash.
It would have at least helped a little.
Yeah. Alright, I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit more so I can hear you better.
That is fair. I've already turned down the volume on the stream down, so I did the same already.
Alright, so... a lot has happened recently. Just by entering, you likely have an idea as to what happened. Assuming you saw the title card for this act. Maybe I'm making an assumption, but you've heard of, watched, or played Danganronpa before, right? Or played through Trial 1? Okay, so interesting about this, it did not say or played through Trial 1 at first, as if asking if you already went through the trial. That was because of a mistake that happened in regards to making Trial 2. When I made Trial 2, I didn't transfer over the files properly, and I wound up accidentally changing the files for Trial 1 because I wound up changing something that was how do I explain it? Instead of changing the things for Trial 2 by copying things over properly, instead I wound up changing the things in Trial 1, and Trial 2 depended on those files in order to work properly. This is why Trial 2 crashes and does not work properly unless you have Trial 1 installed, because I screwed that up. And this was just a mistake that happened that I never corrected.
Well, again, learning curves, you know about what caused the problem now, so...
Yeah. Alright, so... word of watched or played Danganronpa before, played through Trial 1. Nope, I have, but let's just say no for now, just so we can get through the explanation. You play as an ultimate insert title here, in our case, the Ultimate Acrobat, to figure out who committed the murder against one of your friends, assuming you call them friends. The culprit will attempt to get away with it. If they win, they leave this cramped prison cell. If that happens, everyone else dies too. That'd make collecting hourglasses a lot harder. If you figure it out, the culprit kicks the bucket instead and nobody else gets axed. All required evidence has already been found. Use it to break through misinformation and perjury/lies. The more lies you wipe away, the more likely everyone will see the truth. We recommend looking at the evidence beforehand, since we skip the hours of slow plays visual and all action to get to the fun part. Okay, here's why that happened. I skipped all of the boring visual novel BS that happens at the start and got straight to the trial because, let's be honest, the trial is the fun part, first of all.
Yeah.
Secondly,
No, I get that entirely.
Secondly, I played through 2 different Danganronpa games. I'm probably gonna piss off a lot of people by admitting I only played Trial 1 of V3, but I'm not sitting through that garbage. I'm sorry, it sucked. What I do know me off. I have no regrets. But I played through...
Then.
Say again?
Fair enough, then.
Yeah. So, with Danganronpa 1 and 2, every single time we got to the daily life section, it was just annoying teenage horny idiots acting like annoying teenage horny idiots, and it was just so frustrating and boring, and nothing happened, and it was just, I hated it. I hated it, I hated it, I hated it. So I just skipped that part, thinking there's no way I can salvage that. As
I'm not sure. You might have missed your I might have missed your opinion there on it. Then what was that? I think you said you hated it.
I hated the daily life section of Danganronpa 1 and 2 when I played through it because that ever really happened was these stupid kids did nothing of value. They just acted like annoying stupid kids, and it was just frustrating.
Well, I mean, they are nothing but stupid kids, so.
Some people might find it funny when Yasuhiro is talking about how his cheeseburger got abducted by aliens, but if you ask me, that's effing stupid. Can we please get to the interesting bit?
I'm sorry, what?
I don't know how that happened. It's Danganronpa, who cares? They made an entire illustration for that one, too. Like, why do we need this? Why do we need an illustration for this specifically? It's just some dumb saying about how his cheeseburger got abducted by aliens. It's like, this man's probably high. Let's be honest.
Yeah. You could probably say that about a lot of the characters, so.
Yeah, considering how out there they are. Although, if I'm gonna be blunt, them getting more out there and annoyingly weeby gets worse and worse over time. They were already kind of annoyingly weeby in Danganronpa 1, but in 2 and V3, oh god. And when I say...
They found a gimmick and they just kept on going with it.
Yeah, but Danganronpa has its issues, and its issues have always been, to me, its poor writing quality and the obnoxious amounts of fan service.
Fair.
I know you like Miyu the tech girl because she's the tech girl, but there's no reason she needs to barf out every fetish that she has as soon as you talk to her. There's no excuse for that.
Given the story of what V3 turns into, it's one of those... Clearly, they made their characters on purpose for a reason, and it's just like... In the end, it's kind of just like, why did you make yourself like this? Like, you haven't played the end of V3, so I'm not sure if you actually know, like, the proper story behind all of that.
I spoiled myself to basically everything. It's just that all of it's annoying as all garbage to me. Yeah, I already know how it ends, where it's like, where you have to go through and not play the game properly because it's like, oh, well, everyone has just had personalities implanted into them and all that other stuff. It's like, I already know about that part.
Yeah.
It's just that there's no excuse for bad writing, and the writing of Danganronpa has always been bad. Danganronpa's biggest strength has always been its presentation and its interesting concepts, not the execution of the concepts.
It's a cliche reality show, and it's written as such. Which honestly could be done on purpose when you think about it like that.
BFA, I don't think you should be defending Danganronpa's writing to me. Because it's not good. And you and I both know it. Do I need to bring up Kodako again? Do I need to bring up Kodako again?
I might be British, but I will always be Switzerland in arguments and try and be neutral and look at both sides from both their opinions, unbiasedly.
Okay, so this is why we constantly get into debates all the time. That makes sense. There could be some arguments in some areas that might be made, but to me, Danganronpa has always had really, really below average writing. The only one that I'd say might be written well enough is the first one, but that's because the first one didn't try doing lore nearly as much as the later ones did in a game series where things are kind of loosey-goosey and lore doesn't work.
In the first one, the writing probably wasn't the worst, because obviously it's the first one unless they're trying out the concept. In the second one, there's not really an excuse for bad writing, because it's the second one and they haven't thought up the plot of the third one yet, I assume. But the moment they came up with the concept of basically, hey, let's just make this a bad reality show, you could argue that they made the writing bad on purpose because, you know, it's a bad writing show, especially considering it is, what, I think the 53rd rendition of the trials in the actual game?
Yeah, that's the dumb excuse as to why they put a V in front of 3. That's not really how Roman numerals work, but okay, whatever, I guess.
Because it should be VX3, but I suppose at that point it might just give it away too much, you know?
Yeah. Right. Either way, enough whining about Danganronpa. I feel like we've had this discussion before.
Probably.
Yeah, sounds about right. Moving forward to this Danganronpa game that I made and that I'm proud of to some extent. I'm not as proud of it anymore. It's definitely a train wreck in some areas, but we'll get there when we get there.
You should definitely still be proud of it.
I'm proud of it in some areas more than others. You'll see what I mean when I get to criticizing myself. Either way. Now then, here's how the incident played out as far as we know. The ultimate survivor, boss of the Mafia, was found as a pink splatter in the kitchen. Naturally, the prime suspect is the ultimate vigilante. Took me a while to figure out how to add those icons for characters like Mustache Girl, Grooves, and Conductor.
I don't remember seeing that on my first run, so that's really cool.
That was not in the original run, I don't think. I think I added it later when I did some other things, which you will see in a moment. But first of all, who are these people? There's one in here I remember you specifically liking. Hatty is the ultimate acrobat. She is also the main character. However, it's Danganronpa, so that doesn't mean she's safe. Foreshadowing, it's kind of important.
You say foreshadowing, I don't think you'd come up with that idea by the time you were doing this, because you didn't expect it to become a popular series.
Actually, yes and no. I didn't expect it to be a popular series, but in case things did take off or I had more free time to keep going, even in spite of the possibility that no one would care, I could still make myself work on it for fun. I mean, I have made mods for myself before in the past, like the Crypt of the Necrodancer mod, where I replace all the characters with Ape Escape characters. I've done that for fun. It does frustrate me that no one really saw it, but what can you do?
Fair enough, then.
So that plot twist with Hatty, and especially the plot twist involving Grooves, Conductor, Mustache Girl, and the Mafia boss, that was planned from the start. Those were some of the first trial concepts I came up with. Trials 1, 3, and 5 were the first ones I came up with. Trial 6 and 4 came next, and last one that I came up with was actually Trial 2, and that's why Trial 2 turned out the way that it did. I couldn't think of anything.
Alright then.
Alright. Bokid is the ultimate sidekick. She is essentially player 2 and is very similar to Hatty here. Ka is the ultimate detective. He will have searched everywhere for clues. Whether or not he actually finds any or not is a different story, since as we saw from Deadbird, Ka are not reliable. The Moon Penguin is the ultimate bodyguard. They're almost always around DJ Grooves, and they have no characterization beyond that. It's surprising they lasted until chapter 5, or 4, whichever. That's actually one of my favorite jokes in chapter 6 when you go through the G route. It's like, Mustache Girl and Boken are like, why did this guy last so long? You two have no tact. No, we don't. The Goofy Mafia is the ultimate conspiracy theorist, knowledgeable of mafia and aliens after being a mafia and sifting through Hack Kid, the alien's mail. That did get worded really awkwardly, so I felt like I had to reword that here right now.
Fair enough.
Mustache Girl is the ultimate vigilante. She's impulsive and headstrong. If I remember correctly, impulsive was misspelled as impulse instead, and that had to be corrected. Likely to either steer everything in the right direction or completely derail it. She also hates practically everyone else here, which, considering most of them are criminals, scumbag, and she's not exactly wrong about that. Kinda, yeah, I see why. The Science Owl is the ultimate scientist, returned from being stuck in beta. This was definitely not a planned decision to have the owl specifically be a science owl from beta. That was just for flavor and to make a character with a more unique and interesting design, but I managed to capitalize on it later. So that was an unplanned happy accident.
Fair enough.
The Tourist is the ultimate photographer. He loves traveling, the moon, and yelling at birds near the ocean. Because I don't know what else he does.
To be fair, birds are evil.
And yet we all love the Conductor. Some of the fan arts love him a little too much, if you ask me. But that's not what we're here for.
It doesn't make him any less evil.
The Nomad is the ultimate mountain climber. They're a lot more talkative than most of the other characters. So, the Nomad and the Minion caught me off guard that they were the two that people liked the most in this series. I'm still not over that, since they're basically just kind of like... They represent the generic character of each of their individual races. You know?
Yeah, but I think because of that, they technically had the most ability to grow into their own character. Because a lot of the characters were basically already pre-established, and thus you have to work along that pre-establishment. If you just take a generic template, and you can basically meld it into whatever you need it to be.
Yeah, and that's probably why these two wound up being the most interesting, because of the fact that they were able to be molded into what the plot needed a lot easier as a result. In combination with the fact that they're able to be characters that I make and that I'm more interested in writing, specifically because some of my traits probably rubbed off on them, and I can write those more better, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Also, I'm wondering about the visuals right now. Why does it look so shadowy? High performance. Okay. Alright, so... I think I remember telling you before about how later chapters you need to have it set to high performance, otherwise everything is just really, really dark.
Yeah.
So, the way that the game always looks to me, looks like everything is just full bright all the time. For everyone else, it looks a lot darker, and sometimes it can be jarring to me. I was wondering if maybe I forgot to change the settings, because it looks kind of dark right now.
Oh, ironically, I would have thought this was fine.
Lighting has always been a pain for me. The Subconite is the ultimate minion. They work for the Snatcher after signing a contract. The Badge Seller is the ultimate salesperson. Their knowledge of badge effects from selling so many could help us solve the case. Timmy is the ultimate content. Not much is known about him. The boss of the Mafia is the ultimate survivor. He's practically useless in a jar, more so now that he's pink goop on the floor. The Conductor is the ultimate drama king, which is the one you liked.
I remember that.
The Conductor is the ultimate drama king!
He's in his element with all this murder mystery stuff going on.
He's in his element with all this murder mystery stuff going on.
I'm pretty sure I laughed so hard the first time I heard that.
I do remember seeing that, and it was one of the things that I put in that video I showed you, the highlight reel.
Oh, yeah.
So, fun fact, I didn't know whether to say Ultimate Drama King or Ultimate Drama Queen. I was considering Drama Queen because that sounds funnier. Alright, so aside from Conductor being a Drama Queen, DJ Grooves is the ultimate celebrity, seems likely in the hand, has a high reputation from his demeanor. Cooking Cat is the ultimate cook. They like cooking food. They haven't let either of the Mafia in the kitchen since this event started, so that trial wouldn't happen. It happened anyway, but not because of food poisoning. That covers everyone. I think Snatcher winds up getting an entry in a later chapter. Alright, show me the evidence. Cause findings. Caw found no trace of hard evidence in the room. Thank you. That was so very helpful.
So much for the ultimate detective.
Yeah. Kyoka Kirigiri will be disappointed. Nomad's account. The Alpine Skyline villager claims that they were in the kitchen with Cooking Cat earlier, but it was before the murder. Photograph of the murder. The tourist took this when him and the conductor caught Mustache Girl next to the broken jar of pink Mafia boss goop. The body discovery announcement went off immediately after this. Snatcher file. The Mafia boss was killed in the kitchen around 5:13 p.m. Death occurred once the jar was destroyed. Class trial rules. No leaving the building. Some areas are off limits from 10 to 7. You may only sleep in designated rooms like a dorm room. Sleeping anywhere else is a violation. You can roam the building with minimal restrictions. No attacking the Snatcher. Killing gets you blackened. Avoid everyone knowing you didn't sleep. Announcements are made when 3 other people find out. The culprit does not add to this counter. It does bother me that Danganronpa 2 brought that up and didn't capitalize on it at all. Even the time they brought it up.
Yeah, it is one of those really critical... Hey, this is kind of like a critical evidence point.
Yeah, like, Nagito brings this up specifically, and he doesn't use it. He keeps the information he gleans from it to himself, and then brings it up after the trial is over. It's like, why? Also, announcements is misspelled. I should probably have fixed that. Oh well, too late now. But yeah, like, why do something like that? This is what I mean when I say Danganronpa has issues with its interesting concepts being horribly utilized. Because something like that could have been interesting. And that,
yeah, because it basically just immediately makes three people innocent.
Yeah, it could be used for interesting evidence. In fact, when I made these mods, I constantly capitalized on it in both Trigger Hatty Havoc and Cutting the Branches, because it's interesting. It can be used to eliminate suspects and make things interesting, especially when certain situations happen where there is a witness, but we don't know who the witness is. Like in Chapter 4 of this thing, when there's 2 people who saw the body, but we don't have a third witness. The third witness turned out to be the minion who saw Cooking Cat's death. So, that could lead to some interesting things if you know what you're doing. But Danganronpa didn't capitalize on it, and that's a bit of a shame.
I think the main reason it worked for the Cooking Cat chapter is because of the fact they didn't realize the minion was still alive, and if anything, they thought it a double murder at first.
Yeah, which is a major reason as to why it was interesting. Because it's like, well, we don't have all the information, we need to solve this, because in order to make a mystery interesting, something needs to be solved, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It was honestly a really good method to use it. because of the fact he's undead, it's hard to kill him. So, using the idea of, hey, he's undead. Was he actually killed in this? And it's just like, it's one of those really good revelation moments to have during the trial, you know?
Yeah.
And in this sort of game, you need those revelation moments of, oh, this is a critical piece of information we've just worked out.
Yeah. If you ask me, Danganronpa also kind of fails in that regard a little bit too, where it's like, they have interesting ideas, but they're so overt about it prior to the reveal that's like, we're just waiting for them to finally just get on with it. We already know Celestia killed everybody, so stop dragging this out. We know she's up to something.
Is that a second game character or something?
Celestia Ludenberg is the goth Lolita lady from the first game. She's the culprit of Trial 3.
Oh, I'd forgotten her name.
Yeah.
I knew who she was, I just forgotten the name.
Yeah. Interesting how the ultimate gambler has a really terrible poker face when it matters, but what can you do?
Well, considering we now know that they are just characters from V3, there's clearly a reason for that now.
PFA, we're not going over this right now. Anyways, I will take that as a let's move on. Survivors must attend the trials. No breaking into locked rooms. Save some for everyone. Culprits can only kill 2 or less people. Accomplices get nothing, only the murderer. Class trial rules are done. Computer search history. This shows that someone was looking up uncommon and unfamiliar badges using the internet, one of which had Snatcher's face on it. Further searching through the browser history finds you searches of bird expletives, but that is not very important right now. So yeah, someone was looking up bird swear words.
Okay.
It's just a joke, because apparently there's more than just peck. I know you commented somewhere before in this, when you played through, that flock, instead of saying flock, I should be saying peck. No, flock is a bird swear in Hat Time.
Oh.
It's just that it's hidden in the basement somewhere. It's like, do not enter, or do, why do I give a flock?
Alright.
Red stain. A knife with red stains was found in the kitchen. Another knife was missing. A vent leading out of the kitchen was wide open. A fabric found in the computer lab. It's beige and pink. At least I think it's beige. Beige is between brown and gray, right? Motive. Snatcher attempted to use our rivalries to get us riled up to kill. Mustache Girl's account. Mustache Girl ran into the kitchen immediately after hearing a crash inside. She was caught inside with the blood stain by both the conductor and the tourist. And a BDA was made immediately afterwards. She was not allowed to leave due to appearing highly suspicious. If I remember correctly, this was around the point where you realized that Mustache Girl couldn't have been the culprit because of the BDA going off.
Probably, actually, yeah. I'm normally pretty good at working these things out quite quickly.
I like it when people work these things out, because it feels like, oh, I'm so proud. Alright, so, trial's about to start. Let's do this thing. You will notice something immediately different that I had to update later. Ready? Great.
Oh, you put the framework in.
Yep, so now the UI is available for chapters 1 and 2. I eventually went back and did that. I wanted to leave things alone for the sake of seeing how far things had come, but people kept complaining that they had no idea who the was talking.
Which makes sense, honestly, so...
I forgot to read what that line said. Whoops. Alright, whatever. Alright, let's get this started. Well, you're awfully excited, aren't you? I bet you're enjoying putting us through this, aren't you? Feels good to be back in the courtroom again. Now get out there and shoot each other. With the truth, I mean, not actual bullets. Actually, do whatever you want. No matter what happens, I get to execute somebody. Also, I'd like to point out that that picture in the back is something I drew.
Ooh, very nice. Oh yeah, I think you've shown me that one before.
Yep. The background of that picture is also relevant because half of it was Ace Attorney and the other half was Danganronpa. It was a combination of two different courtroom setups.
Very appropriate.
Both of you feel like this is going to be a long day. It took me a while before I finally figured out how to make Bokid and Hatkid speech work. I think I eventually finally settled in on them talking in either the second or third person, whichever one it is. So for us to survive, we have to solve the mystery, right? So should we start with alibis, or... Mafia already know culprit. Mafia knows it was little girl with mustache. She hates all Mafia. Sorry, kid, but the photo doesn't lie. You were there when he died. It wasn't me, though. I mean, yeah, I hated him and mashed him to mush and put him in a jar and... Okay, point taken, but it really wasn't me. I think we can just skip to the vote already. Are my fellow detectives ready to vote? I guess. Seems a bit premature, but... Cut! Everyone shut your traps! Good. All that screwing around was getting us nowhere. It's as the Nomad said. We find a starting point. We go by alibis, evidence, testimony, etc. until someone screws up and trips over their own lives. If y'all feel like throwing your lives away without thinking, be my guest. But you're not dragging me down with ya! Good. Now that that's settled, let's eliminate suspects the fastest way I know. Alibis. The rules state that accomplices get nothing out of this. That means there's no reason to team up. You're gonna make this boring. I guess this isn't your first
boring.
What?
How is he making it boring? I mean, for Snatcher, maybe, because it's a case of, oh, you will immediately all get it wrong thanks to the bad evidence. But it's like, we actually get to actually... I suppose, yeah, it makes it boring from his point of view, doesn't it? Yeah.
From Snatcher's perspective, it's like, oh, you're gonna make this boring because you're gonna figure it out too fast, because all of Conductor's points are accurate.
Yeah.
I guess this isn't your first rodeo with murder mystery. There's 15 people here. If anyone was accompanying them at the time the murder happened, both of them are much less likely to be the culprit due to Rule 10. Hackett and Bokid can vouch for each other, but what about everyone else? Only one way to find out. So, how am I doing acting out all these characters? I know my voice has zero range, but I'd like to think I'm at least doing the accents at least somewhat well.
Oh, I think you're not doing bad with the accents.
Yay. I'm not sure if you noticed the giant picture of Junko in the background there.
Oh,
But I did draw that one as well, although that one is digital art. It's Junko in the darkest dungeon art style, because she's a despair maniac.
I never knew you drew that one. Well done.
You didn't notice that it was the darkest dungeon art style?
Oh, I knew full well it was the darkest dungeon art style. But at the same time, I can easily see that being something anyone would draw, considering. I just didn't know it was you who drew it.
Oh, you didn't know I made that. I'll link my DeviantArt to you later then. I don't post anything on DeviantArt anymore, but even still. Alright, where were you picnics when the murder took place? Me and the boss were in the rec room at the time. Alright, this is a feature that I eventually got rid of. The bottom thing was supposed to be the equivalent of the white noise text that would have played out in Danganronpa. That was supposed to be what that was. But no one was reading it, so I eventually stopped doing it.
Okay.
Right. Me and the boss were in the rec room at the time. I can vouch for that, darling. I was in the hall. Ka kept asking for personal information. Peckoff is an interesting name for your uncle's sister. Please leave me alone. Moving along. Me and the young Alpine villager here were in the kitchen. Yes, that's... Wait a minute. Looks like someone fumbled a bit. What will you attempt to contradict? Alright, let's see.
Oh no. I've long forgotten what the answers were.
Wait a minute, Cooking Cat is lying. They weren't in the kitchen during the crime. That being said, the villager seems to have an alibi for them just based on that reaction. I wish I could do the Nomad's voice fairly well, but unfortunately I'm not good at impersonating Callie from Mass Effect. I don't know how they do that.
She really did have that kind of voice, didn't she?
We've tried to make ourselves as independent as possible on the flotilla, grow our own food, mine, and process our own fuel. But some things we just can't make on our own.
I don't know much about the goats up here, but we try to give them a wide berth. If you get in their way, they tend to be a bit pushy.
Yes, the Nomad sounded absolutely like Callie. It's hard not to notice. I don't know how they do that voice. I should Photoshop the Nomad over Callie at some point just to be funny. You know I'd do it.
I know all too well you would do it.
The air is clear again!
You do things like that all the time.
Just wait until we get to the later trials and my sense of humor goes off the wall insane. Because things start pretty tame up until around, like, I'd say chapter 5. No, wait, maybe 4, depending on how you feel about the B-plot. Chapter 5, definitely, though. That's when everything went nuts.
It all started to go nuts when Marge was introduced.
Chapter 3 wasn't that bad. Chapter 3 was not that bad.
It was that early.
I still say that the Marge jokes thing didn't truly start until chapter 6, when I just made her kick the crap out of everybody for no apparent reason. But I can see why you'd argue that it started as early as chapter 3. Cooking Cat and I were in the kitchen before the murder happened. They were asking what we were all doing during the murder. Oh, I have to apologize for that. I didn't mean to cause any confusion. It was indeed an honest mistake. Wonder how long that'll last until everyone starts lying all over the place. I take it you can both vouch for each other. Actually, darling, we can vouch for them. They joined us in the rec room. I was wondering why you took so long saying that. By the way, next movie I make, I want you to be our caterer. Assuming we both live, that is. Thanks. You know, will you peckneck stop wasting time? Well, I'll be killed. Nah, just take your time. I'm sure you'll be fine. I'll have to save that topic for later, then. Why do you care? I thought you hated all of us. I'm surrounded by criminals, crooked celebrities, and people that sold their souls to that giant grinning sod in the judge's seat. Now, I think sod is not considered a very nice word, but at the same time, there are actually wheels of cheese in the game that have the word sod off on it. So, there's that.
You know, I don't even know if sod is the proper word anymore. Because I remember thinking maybe it was sob, which would be an acronym for son of a bitch.
Ha. I never heard about that.
It's just something I remember thinking to myself so long ago, but I know sod is just one of those words, and I just don't know its origin. I'm not sure if it's just a case of it started as sob and then it just turned into sod, because that sounded better, but it was technically meant to have the same meaning.
I mean, when it comes to language in general, that's kind of how the rules work, is that words just kind of come into and out of existence. I mean, language is kind of a social construct.
Yeah, very true.
Ah, good times. Till they ruined a kid. How hard is it to kill a little girl? Surprisingly difficult. Mustache Girl doesn't seem to have any vendetta against Cooking Cat. But why would that be? Alright, so sometimes you get funny answers from picking wrong, so let's see what that gets us. They both invaded my ship. The ship was boarded by at least 7 or 8 people in this room, and then some. And that was long before I showed up. Both have fur on their face. Excuse me, this mustache is my trademark. Why do you think I'm called Mustache Girl?
Shut up, Penelope.
You know, when I think of a girl named when I think of someone named Penelope in the same room as someone named Carmelita, this is not the direction my brain goes, you know? Considering I made Mustache Girl and Carmelita hang out later.
Yeah.
But before we start whining about the Penelope twist of Sly 4, let's get back to the plot. Well, yeah, of course they aren't with the Mafia. Why else would they swap out the gross food, if it can be called that, with actual cooking? In case you haven't seen the pedestrians getting beaten and kicked by those goons, anyone who isn't Mafia in that town hates them. You did what with Mafia's food? Relax, the only reason I did it was to prevent you Mafia from poisoning the residents. If someone ate that food, they'd have died. And the only reason me and Mustache Girl wound up on bad terms was because of the whole nearly destroyed the world thing. Everyone stop screwing around! So, Mustache Girl and Cooking Cat becoming friends in this mod was kind of because I felt like Mustache Girl probably would have had the easiest time bonding with Cooking Cat compared to just about everybody else. Because of that common link.
Yeah. Because for anyone that didn't know her, she's obviously the bad guy who tried to destroy the world. Cooking Cat's the only one that kind of knew them before that entire bit. So...
I'm not really sure if they knew Mustache Girl, but they were definitely in the same area for a long time. Considering that Mustache Girl and Cooking Cat are both most heavily associated with Mafia Town. Because I don't remember Cooking Cat being much anywhere else in the game other than Mafia Town and Hat Kid's spaceship. Third place goes to the Arctic Cruise, but we don't talk about that because that was short and it sucked. The cruise didn't suck, it's just that it's being super short and being tied so heavily to Seal the Deal, which had the, Snatcher contract thing, Death Wish, which is the part that actually sucked. Like, fun fact, apparently, when that mode first came out, you had to get a certain amount of Death Wish stamps just to proceed with the Arctic Cruise.
I think I played that on launch and I don't remember that.
I remember playing it on launch and I don't remember it either, but that's because I played Death Wish first and then the Arctic Cruise. Or as much of the Death Wish as I could stomach beforehand. But I heard that this was a genuine issue. I could be wrong, but...
Maybe that was the thing in the initial beta testing of that chapter, because I don't remember that, because pretty sure I did the Arctic Cruise first.
Maybe the information I got was wrong, who knows.
Shrug.
Right. But yeah, anyways, Cooking Cat and Mustache Girl, that's kind of where the logic went with both of them. And why I kind of made Mustache Girl and Cooking Cat associate with one another. Back to the plot. Right, alibis. Who all is covered? Okay, 7 people don't have alibis. I was in the AV room looking for something to fix my camera. The lens got all scratched up. And the rest of the camera, but it could still work. Why was the camera damaged so bad? That's not important. The conductor did it. I have such bad darn luck with birds, don't I? I needed a cameraman and none of my owls are here. Sometimes things get damaged during action scenes. You mean like your train?
He must have huge budgets.
He just throws the bill in the studio basement. He doesn't bother paying anything.
Someone will sort this out.
Yeah, I'll just chuck the bill in the studio basement. I'm sure that peck-neck DJ Gruz will pay for it. It's like, yeah, sure. Alright, so, it's hard to explain what happened. It was normal until something just exploded. Then, how do I explain this? He was glowing like a rainbow? Rainbow, darling? That sounds vaguely familiar. In a bad way. Like, you just watch what happens. Death Wish was a horrible mistake. You'd think I'd learn to read the fine print by now. That was foreshadowing for Chapter 5. And this actually does get brought up later in Chapter 5 as well, to show that, yes, this was foreshadowed.
Yeah, fair.
You bring up the alibis to get everyone back on track. Yeah, so, who else left besides me with no alibi? There should be 5, including me. Any of you got anything? Mafia was in Mafia's room. Mafia thrown out of kitchen by Tiny Kitten. You remember when I set up shop? It was in one of the hallways. Regrettably, no business occurred during the incident, and thus I become a potential suspect. I, was in my room opening mail. Apparently Denver Studios hasn't paid his electric bill yet. 17 times in a row. Hey, keep your hands off my mail! Darling, you don't pay your bills anyway. When are you gonna clean up all those bills in the basement? Not good for the studio. Have you seen how expensive they are? We go out of business and still not pay all of them. Surely you're exaggerating. There's no way train expenses could be that catastrophic. Let me check my mail again. How much is 100 million pawns? Say that again? And that's just one bill of dozens. So, the reason for that joke, you remember when you broke and entered into the studio and you wound up with a giant bill?
Yeah.
This is where the joke comes from that, yeah, property costs are probably astronomical. Let's just pretend this discussion never happened, okay, darling? Is that a lot? A good badge costs around 100 to 200 pawns. Superpowers and awesome gadgets cost less than these bills, and breaking and entering a movie studio, apparently. That's a lot. Anyway, I said before, I was in the dining room when it happened, and rushed to the kitchen when I heard glass break. Kinda wanted to do it myself, but hey, if we live, I won't complain. Mustache Girl, you have no right to complain. You've actually survived to the end of the series. Timmy is silent. Likely because he has no voice clips. So now it's narrowed down to 5. The Angry Red Lass, the Badge Seller, the lad from the other timeline, the Mafia Goof, and the minion to the Snatcher. I say we figure out the murder weapon next. But he was ajar. Knocking him over or just tripping on him would have done it. Let's see how this one goes. One sec, I need to spit. I've been talking so much, I'm not used to this.
That's fine.
I don't remember seeing anything that looked like a murder weapon. There were no suspicious items in the kitchen when I investigated. And Caw there has a little tear in his eye. It might be a bit hard to notice. It's likely that
I thought that was just his eye.
There is a little tear under the eye. It's likely that the murder wasn't carried out with a weapon, so there's no trace of blood on anything that could resemble a weapon. Maybe they ran off with it? If that's the case, something would be missing. I guess nobody here would know, huh? Someone said something you know is wrong. What's the contradiction? Nobody here would know. Photograph of the murder. You remind everyone about the photo. Kid's right, didn't I show you all the picture I took? That picture must have a clue if someone thinks it's important enough to bring up. What's the clue in the picture, fellow detective? Picture's too clear. Don't you remember? We got the camera fixed up. Scratching the lens screwed in the quality. Unless you're going for that, I suppose. Oh, they also have more than one camera with me. Someone is in the picture. Just because I was there doesn't mean I did it. What does this have to do with the weapon? A knife went missing. How do we possibly miss that? A knife against a bottle doesn't sound like a very smart idea. It'd be easier and leave less evidence to just kick it. But this knife was there. It was covered in something red, right? Actually, is it a red herring? So the knife was the weapon. Heh, what picnic would be dumb enough to put the murder weapon back after they're done with it? That sounds unlikely. Since when has actual blood in this world been red? And thus the pink blood jokes happen for the entire rest of the trial.
I remember. Oh.
So the murder weapon was the knife. Somebody would have to be really dumb to screw up like that. Don't look at me, I'm not as dumb as these Mafia. Mafia offended by that. What if we're wasting time? This seems like a red herring to me, even with the red goop. Nobody would be that dumb. I'm pretty curious about them. You clearly haven't been around the Mafia very long. What does it matter? Blood is red and a red stain was on the knife. Is Jimmy ever gonna say anything? Alright, I know there's something in here. Red stain. Nope. Sometimes there's an interesting one in here. Yep. Sometimes there's unique responses for picking wrong answers. Nice to know someone agrees with me. You can only agree if the text is blue and thus you are consenting to agreement instead of calling out a lie. The consent mechanic, however, is not implemented for the first trial. At least not like this. What do you mean blood isn't red? Yeah, didn't you see the pink splatter on the floor? It's in the picture I took too. So I'd like to point out that photograph of the murder was the correct answer for both of the previous ones.
Yeah.
Alright. That was blood? Since when is blood pink? You can't really argue with the Mafia boss's jar model. Also, it's Danganronpa. Get used to it. Aside from pink blood, because I need pink chocolate spray paint now, we can assume that the knife has nothing to do with the case. But where did it come from? Nobody's messing up, meaning either a mute character did it, or I bet Snatcher did it to throw us off. Oh, come now, I didn't do it to throw you off. I did it to make things interesting. This guy is the worst. Well, that was a waste of time. I still think it's the kid with the mustache. To fit the motive, they were caught at the crime scene, and she doesn't have an alibi. What do the rest of you think? Everyone still thinks it's her, but there's an 8% chance we're wrong. We can't vote yet. It must be the little girl. Voted fits perfectly. Everyone knew how much you hated the Mafia boss. But if we're wrong, we all die. We shouldn't jump to conclusions. Why do you care? You died a long time ago. Darling, if you can think of anything that can clear your name, get it out now. Boss, she has no alibi. She was caught at the crime scene. It's gotta be her. Hold on a moment, though. There are 4 other people that have no alibi. I have found no conclusive evidence to incriminate her. That said, she has no proof to favor her claim either. She's being ganged up on. Isn't there any proof that can help us? No proof to favor her claim. I think this one led to an interesting result. Nope.
Does not adequately contradict my statement.
No, that was a generic one. I know that one of the statements that Cause says if you provide wrong evidence is, you are using my findings to contradict my findings. What? But I must have missed it during the second non-stop debate.
Fair enough.
This is also another interesting thing that I liked doing with both Trigger Hatty Havoc and Cutting the Branches. Having the player character swap every now and then. So that way, it feels like it's not just Hackett having to do everything.
And it actually feels like a proper debate between everyone rather than one person being like, hey, I'm leading this entire thing.
Yeah. Because that is kind of one of the things about Danganronpa that, well, it's not a huge deal, but it just kind of is more interesting when you have multiple player characters and using their perspective on the matter. You rarely get to play as anyone else other than whoever the designated main character is. And I feel like that could lead to some interesting possibilities. It's untapped potential, basically. Will you brutes get off my case? I was just looking over the rulebook and guess what I found? Rule 6. Killing gets you blackened. Avoid everyone knowing you did sleep. Announcements are made when 3 other people find out. Culprit does not add to the counter. Hangman's Gambit is now skippable in case you're having bug issues with it. Skip Hangman's Gambit. No. What proves that I couldn't have done it?
Just give me a moment, I'm just wanting to check on something if my food hasn't arrived yet. Not sure.
Alright, I'm going to just click through this part at least.
Okay, I'm back.
Alright, you're back? Okay.
Yep. Still running late as my food.
I'm not sure if you heard me, but I had to leave as well for a little bit. I'm both hungry, and also my throat could use some water.
Yeah, that happens when you do recordings and streaming and whatnot.
My voice is nowhere near as strong as yours, as well, because you're used to it.
Yeah, I've had a lot of practice. Technically, I'm out of practice with it, though, so...
3 other witnesses, and the killer doesn't add to that counter? Last I checked, the announcement went off immediately after these 2 entered the room. If I'm really the killer, then who else found the body and never said a word? She's right, I forgot about the rulebook. Any other rules that could help us? Afraid not. Nothing else in the rulebook seems relevant to the case. Wasn't expecting that to happen. Usually stuck playing as the main character from start to finish. Oh wait, Danganronpa V3 exists. Well, it wasn't you, and Boki can back you up on that, so you should be safe. Hopefully. So yeah, that was meant to be
foreshadowing.
That was indeed foreshadowing, yeah. Okay, we're making progress. Only 4 left. Let's see. Mafia, Timmy, Badge, and Minion. Wait, do any of you have a vendetta against the victim? The nerve of accusing Mafia of treason. I didn't even know who the guy was. I have met many, yet my feelings towards all are neutral. I'm a salesperson, and it is best to stay neutral with everyone. The motive is another red herring. Well, any more useful information? Anyone remember anything? There's still the cloth in the computer lab, the computer search history as if someone left in a hurry, and the freezer air vent. Remember Rule 8, no breaking into locked rooms? The vent needs fixed, but none of you did it. If that were the case, there'd be 2 corpses to clean up. But hey, it could be an escape route, since the freezer is next to the kitchen. The fact that you say that makes me think it isn't the case. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That's for you guys to figure out. Aside from that, there's the computer room. You said someone logged in? Every time I try looking up something online, I get no results and my search goes to Federal Review. That happens to Hackett too when you use the computer in the second hub area room. I don't even know what that means. Send it to Federal Review, what does that even mean?
The main thing I remember about that game was playing with the dog game.
Hackett and Bokit's findings are given to the others. Interesting. Which badges did they look into? That must be the culprit that looked up bloodstain removal. That would be the logical assumption, yes. And what about that cloth? Does that have anything to do with the crime? What are we missing here? Hey, any way you could help us identify that badge? Bokit didn't recognize the badge at all, but it felt oddly familiar to you. That can only mean the badge existed before Bokit, but let's see what the wrong answer says. But badges don't work like that. Any badge can be used by anybody. I would have no business otherwise. That said, almost everything existed before her, but everyone else was here long before she was introduced, since Beta's timeline came into being before the one you're from, so everyone existed before her. Especially Timmy and the Science Owl. Bokit was never in Beta. It must be a Beta build badge. Hackett brings this up. A badge with my face? How flattering, but there isn't one laying around here. Wait a minute, is it the Snatcher's Realm badge? Snatcher's Realm badge? I didn't know Boss had a badge. vague and elusive. It is not a badge that is sold. A powerful badge seen only in other timelines, needless to say, it's very valuable. A badge of teleportation would be able to bypass anything so long as you were already there to set up the badge's relay point. So, the Snatcher's Realm badge, here's what it's actually meant for. In the original, it's there. You were able to get that badge, I forget what the unlock criteria for it was actually, but I know you couldn't buy it. I know you had to, like, get it somehow. I think you had to get, like, a bunch of different pieces, cobble it together, and then make it yourself. I don't remember, don't quote me on that. But I definitely remember what it was used for. See, you were supposed to go to the end of where the cheating the race mission is, set up the relay point for teleportation, and then run back to where the Mafia is so that you could start the race, and then use the teleportation badge to cheat and go straight to the end of the race right then and there. That was how you were supposed to do it before they made the time stop hat. That's what the Snatcher's Realm badge was for.
Fair enough. Pretty decent teleportation.
Yeah. I feel like that would be fun to mess around with, but I'm not sure how it would be... Actually, it could be useful for interesting puzzle scenarios, so it is a bit of a shame that they didn't wind up sticking with it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they wound up having to rename it to something other than Snatcher's Realm badge to fit in with Snatcher's new role, they probably still could have kept it and renamed it and used it. Kind of like what they did with the Shrams from Subcon and made them into eggs at the birdhouse.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I learned a lot of interesting things about Hat in Time, trying to get beta elements and old stuff right as best as I could for the sake of making an interesting narrative once we got far enough in. These were some of the more basic, well-known beta-related things. Exactly, the wearer can just teleport to a place they've already been using that. I'm not sure if any of you remember Beta's timeline at all, because, you know, timelines, but I remember it pretty well since, well, I'm directly from it. But the only other person besides me directly from Beta is... Well, it was you. I guess I owe you for getting rid of him. If only the circumstances were different, we wouldn't be enemies right now. Sorry, but I can't afford to die yet. No hard feelings to me. So the next segment is that weird rhythm minigame segment, Bullet Time Battle from Danganronpa, which is why it's a joke segment, because I'm not going to be able to program a rhythm game, especially not now.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, these sorts of things.
This is the first time I used that face of hers, and it's the best time I used it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The peck are they doing? I also like how I censored the word peck this time. I don't see how this is helping your case at all. I rarely get to use this nomad expression, but it is so funny. Just the fact that you can somehow see their mouth through the cloth just makes it funnier.
I didn't even notice the mouth. Honestly.
Yeah, if you compare the image on the left versus the image in the center, yeah.
Oh yeah, I see it now. Yeah.
I'm guessing you just thought that was a wrinkle in the clothes.
I don't even think I noticed the line. I was paying too much attention to the eyes.
Right, either way. Darling, you're embarrassing yourself. Moving along. Are we absolutely sure this time? If we screw up, we all get killed. We gotta put this to rest. Is Timmy the culprit? We've gone this far. We can't mess up now. The culprit must have used a badge from the beta. Which means he's either me or Timmy. But I have an alibi. My intuition tells me that it isn't a suicide based on such evidence. They won't figure that out when we start with the alibis. This must mean that Timmy did it, right? Are we completely sure this time? We examined everything. There's nothing left to look into. Better to play it safe. Anything else we can add? Trial's almost done. Anything else? Alright, this one's special because every wrong answer tells you something interesting.
Alright.
The motive in this case are unrelated. None of the suspects left had a grudge against the Mafia boss. I think it's true that we didn't go over the time of death, but that's not helpful right now. Also, we already went over how he died. We already figured out that the freeze event has nothing to do with the case because of the beta era badge. Now both can guess to be playable, yay. Wait a second, the cloth is pink! It's blood! Pink blood! It's evidence of a murder, not a weirdly dyed shirt. I'd like to point out that Bokid's ultimate talent was not sidekick, actually, it's fashionista.
Yep.
So this is her using her talent of knowing fashion. Finally. And then it pretty much never gets used again afterwards, I think. Aside from, like, Chapter 3, where being the ultimate fashionista is a bad thing. Specifically because of fashionista. You tell everyone about the pink blood. The pink dye might be blood? Why didn't you say that sooner? You didn't really notice until now. Hey, Snatcher, is this cloth a trick of yours? Nope, that's Mafia blood, not a red herring. I find it flattering you thought of me screwing up the evidence first, though I'm not actually allowed to touch the actual evidence. I kinda winged it with Snatcher, if I'm gonna be honest. In that case,
how many of his own rules can he break?
The original intention was for him to actually be lawful evil, and it just didn't pan out the way I pan out right because of me being an idiot. But we'll see. But oh well, we ball.
Dinner's here. 1 moment.
1 moment. Okay.
I am back with dinner.
Back with your pizza.
Yep.
All right. Should I continue?
Yep.
Alright. In that case, it must have come from Timmy. Hey, Owl, any raid clothes from that beta timeline that this might be? This looks like the original co-partner hat, but it's torn and bloodstained. So, there is a hat in the game that was meant for Timmy, but that never panned out. I think I actually have a mod installed that lets you see the hat. So I can show you that later.
Oh, fair enough.
But it's Timmy's, right? Have we solved the case? I believe we have. Let's try putting every event in order. The events are as follows. This part's pretty much never interesting, so...
It's technically interesting in the proper game because you got, like, the image caption of it all coming together, but...
Yeah.
It's hard to do that in this, so...
Yeah.
Especially for your very first time as well.
Yeah. When I had to do this again for Chapter 4, I wound up doing things in a, I copy-pasted all the exact same thing over, I just changed the words. Just to make life easy on me, so I didn't have to rearrange all the stupid nodes. I don't think anyone would have noticed, unless I pointed it out, but I did, so now people will notice. But if I hadn't said anything, they probably wouldn't have. Alright, either way. A little bit before the murder, everyone started going in separate rooms for their own reasons. Neither of the Mafia cooks were allowed in the kitchen, specifically by Cooking Cat, who forbade them from entering. And it is very poorly drawn, but whatever. However, the Mafia boss is stubborn and managed to worm his way in. Upon reflection, they might have gotten in through the freezer vent, which had been broken, otherwise he'd have to go through the dining room with a very not happy red-headed vigilante with a bad grudge against him. There isn't really any evidence to support the idea, though, and it doesn't really affect the case at all, but it's a possibility. Darling, we don't have all day. Moving on. The Mafia boss succeeded in entering the kitchen, while Cookie Cat and the Alpine Villager left to cater Grooves in the rec room. But that made him an easy target for whoever entered in next. As a jar of mush, he was basically defenseless in a fight, resulting in pink blood on the floor and the culprit's clothes. Why is that a thing? Darling, are you still not over this? What's the problem? Do you know how often I use red as a blood color? That inaccuracy will make me a laughingstock in the movie industry. Have you considered calling it an artistic choice? You didn't, did you? I guess I can work with that. Alright, so something interesting about what we just saw there with the two pictures of them going on the screen. So, the way that that works is interesting. Remember how Trial 5 picks whichever one of them is the survivor?
Yeah.
The way that I detect that is with an in-game variable called Deadbird Winner. Now, because we are currently playing with a character that does not have a Deadbird Winner, the way that I'm pretty sure I set it up is that whichever character of the two is on the right or left is picked randomly. However, if it was whoever the Deadbird loser is for your playthrough is supposed to wind up on the right because that's the one who survives to the end. This is because in actual Danganronpa, when people do the consent thing, the player character is always on the right and the person they're agreeing with is always on the left. Because in the case where Conductor is the Deadbird loser, he's supposed to be a player character. So in this context, he would wind up on the right, and DJ Grooves will be on the left. That's how it's set up, and this is also how I knew who your Deadbird winner was as soon as I saw the first trial, because that was the dead giveaway. Because that's how I had it set up. When I talked to you about this, you gave me a different answer, as you thought that your Deadbird winner was Grooves? No, wait. Yeah, you thought your Deadbird winner was Grooves, but the thing I saw pointed at your Deadbird winner being Conductor. When I looked back, I eventually did look back and check your playthrough of Hat in Time. Conductor was your Deadbird winner, it's just he wasn't originally supposed to be. Your audience told you to make them the Deadbird winner. And you obliged, so that's what happened.
Yeah, that sounds completely right. It's because Grooves, I think, is innately easier to win with.
Yes.
Because his options are just easier to do. But then the entire, studio audience of YouTube said, you should make sure Conductor wins. He's more interesting. It's just like, yeah, okay.
If I'm gonna be honest, I think I prefer it if Grooves is the winner, because Grooves being the winner and betraying you, despite being the nice guy, and Conductor, who's been an ass to you, saving your hide, winds up leading to a more interesting plot twist, if you ask me.
Yeah, it does actually, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it in the original, wasn't it in the original programming that Grooves is meant to be the winner and does all the betrayal and whatnot?
In older previous builds, I don't really know what was going on with Deadbird Studios. Like, Deadbird Studios was originally not Chapter 2, it was originally Chapter 3. Even the folder, to this day, is still labeled Chapter 3. There's a lot about that era that I don't know about.
I just remember there being evidence it wasn't meant to be like, both of them could be the winner or loser. It was a case of one was the winner and one was the loser. And it was just like, that's the reason it's called, like, the Penguin Disco, because it's Grooves' base, which is why he was innately meant to be the person you fight, or something like that.
Let me recheck something, because I'm pretty sure that I remember something from Hat in Time's code that can answer this. I just need to remember where the maps are. Cooked PC, I think it is. Maps, chapter 3. Yep, okay, found it. Alright, so I'm about to post a picture for you to see, but going into the files themselves to check this out, you can clearly see that the boss fight arena is named after Grooves. I went in and checked this map myself.
Yeah. I thought so. I thought that was the case.
DJ Grooves always came across as if they were the intended boss fight. There are arguments to be made for both sides, but I always believed that Grooves was meant to be the boss of the area.
Partially, there's also because he's got more... Because the entire reason for the boss fight is using the timepiece to reclaim all the other trophies that were lost, which if I remember rightly, Conductor is literally a single one, and then Conductor, it's for every single other one.
Yeah, for Conductor, it was one award that he was bothered by comparison to Grooves, where it was like 1 billion. Which warrants a stronger motivation for Grooves to want to go back. It's just more interesting as well when the characters have nuance, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like there was something else interesting that I was going to bring up and I forgot what it was. Crap. I'll think of it at a bad time. Alright, never thought I'd see the day those two agree on something. I think the pink blood joke has been run to the ground enough now. Moving on. By this point, the Mafia boss died again, resulting in someone getting blackened. The mustache girl heard it and rushed to investigate, with the Conductor and tourists not far behind, as they were close enough to hear it. Because the culprit is from the Bay timeline that had access to badges not seen ours, they used the Snatchers around badge and teleported out ASAP. They hadn't really left any evidence behind in the kitchen since they were still wearing their bloody clothes and didn't use any weapons. Snatcher was apparently watching at the time and had some evidence of his own before vanishing and making things pointlessly hard on us. He did it in beta for kicks, he'll do it again. That is actually kind of true. In the beta version of Hat in Time, there was originally a 3rd floor to Vanessa's mansion. This was back before Moonjumper got scrapped and Snatcher took over the role as the main villain of that area.
Okay.
So, because Snatcher did not have Moonjumper's role as Vanessa's prince, he was just some annoying dick that just ruined people's lives for no reason. Just for craps and giggles. So what he did was that he'd basically steal the key to get up to the attic with a shadow clone of Hat Kid and run around the upper floors, just making things pointlessly difficult on her. Up until around the time Vanessa showed up.
Fair enough. It's interesting how he goes from a minor character to a main boss.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how that panned out. Bit sad for Moonjumper. But I guess the Moonjumper thing doesn't really work when the Moon Penguins are loud as all doesn't really make his interest all that mysterious when going there is annoying.
Honestly, it could be to do with the voice actor, because the voice actor of Snatcher really adds a lot of liveliness to the character, and sometimes just adding that sort of level of liveliness to a character can be enough to just say, hey, let's rewrite it so there's a lot more of this character, you know? I think they've done that for several movies.
I'm not so sure that was the case. I don't think there was any voice acting in that era of the game, or at least not that much. Because I know that there was some voice acting, but it was like minor NPCs and a whole lot. I don't think even all the characters had voice acting.
Fair enough then.
And also, on the topic of the voice actor, unless I'm remembering wrong, the creator DLC for Vanessa's Escape, didn't Bitby voice Snatcher in that DLC compared to Youngtown, who is the original voice actor for the main game?
I wouldn't be able to tell you for that.
That's something I heard, but I can't confirm it. Alright, anyways. Back to this, because we've only got an hour and 20 minutes yet, and I'm hoping we can get through Chapter 2.
Bap.
Okay, let me get this straight. The murder and teleporting out happened, then Snatcher came in and got a knife splatter with red before putting it back and getting out, within a time span of about 5 seconds or so while I ran there. When she puts it like that, it sounds very far-fetched. But he already admitted that he did it to mess with us. I think you're underestimating me by quite a bit. But why watch the kitchen until someone dies in it to add fake evidence? Were you expecting someone to get killed in there? He's hiding something. You don't know what, but he is. Maybe he tried orchestrating someone into committing murder here and another opportunity arose? And as we find out later, yes, he wanted to lure Hackett in there with the mafia boss, activate a death wish contract, and kill her off. It didn't pan out because Timmy was still in the room. And no one noticed because no one cares about Timmy.
Oh. Good times, good times.
After all that happened, Mustache Girl entered, shortly followed by 2 others who assumed she didn't, except that the body discovery announcement was her alibi. That leaves us with a missing culprit who went off to try and remove bloodstains from clothing. If there was any blood on their clothes, they'd be caught instantly. They snuck up to the computer lab as soon as they could to fix that problem. They were successful in doing so despite the limited room amount and large sum of people, because it's early game Danganronpa, that's how it works. Though the fact they never logged out raises the question of if they were interrupted while doing so. That would be logical, but they also could have been an idiot. As the picture shows, Boke had stepped on them without realizing it.
Oh, good times. That's what happens when you're basically the unknown character.
Yeah. The community kind of treats Timmy like the butt of the joke even when they are trying to appreciate him, so... oh well. I mean, he was originally supposed to be the player too, but then Boke showed up, so...
How fitting that she's the one standing on his head, then.
Yeah. They left behind a very decisive piece of evidence while doing so. 2, actually. The hat they always wear, and their internet browser history. And we're not talking about the part where they're looking at bird sweaters. They looked up beta-era badges in previous sessions. Actually, wait, why did beta badges come up in the internet search if they're from a different timeline? That's a good question, actually. Anyways, they ran off to clean themselves off, but without a hat and with hard evidence against them leaked. And that killer... was you, Timmy.
Oh, those images.
Okay, so... this is a trace job of one of those, like, Danganronpa accusation things. I know you call it a JoJo cinematic appearance, but no, that's not what's happening. I don't even watch JoJo.
I don't dispute the fact you don't, but I fully say that is a JoJo cinematic sequence.
Well, either way. I smell an execution. Everyone ready to vote? The votes are in. Timmy has been caught as the blackened. Looks like I get to savor these moments as the judge, jury, and executioner. Timmy seems conflicted. Well, kid, I owe you for getting rid of that jerk for good. Maybe now the island can start returning to normal. Not to ruin the mood, but he's going to get executed. Maybe we should be more concerned as to where this goes. Right. I feel like this close up, we can tell that this image, despite how simple it is, has way too high of resolution for what it is. Is it just me?
Yeah, maybe a little. Maybe a little.
Yeah, you can tell this is 2048 pixels by 2048 pixels. I did not need to make it that big. But live and learn. First time doing this. But why did he do it? Looks like he doesn't want to say. One unsatisfying shame. So, Timmy just tripped over his own shoe. He seems to be trying to tell you something, otherwise he wouldn't have done that on purpose. What? You killed him by tripping on the bottle? What kind of murder is that? It was a mistake the whole time? That must be awful, darling. Why didn't you try telling us sooner? And then random angst out of nowhere. Can you blame someone for wanting to live, even when you know dozens of others will die in your place? It's not a simple answer. Yay, random angst out of nowhere.
Is that even angst?
Random nihilism, whatever. Alright, so, I know you complained about the sequence not happening in the second trial. I'm hoping you're seeing why now. Oh, I can't watch. It's so terribly animated.
I just realized that was the golem.
Alright, you just realized what?
It was Thor's golem.
Okay, now that the music isn't blaring.
Yeah, I just realized it was Thor's golem is all.
Yeah. Because that did come up in Trial in Chapter 3 later. It's like, isn't this the thing that killed Timmy before in the first chapter? But I don't think you noticed at the time.
No, I don't think I did. Because I'd never seen the thing before.
Also, interesting thing about this song is called Subcon Forest Masked. This is the song that played in the older versions of the game that had you being able to play as Hatty briefly by walking around outside of the bookstore, which led to the credit sequence.
Playing as who, sorry?
Say again?
Playing as who, sorry?
Hatty. You were able to play as Hatty for a little bit in the... I think it was the alpha and the beta. You were able to walk around outside of the bookstore a little bit, and once you interacted with the window, you were able to see the credits. There's actually a lyrical version of this song where you actually get to hear her singing. And the song is very much clearly about Moonjumper and Vanessa. That's why it's called Subcon Forest Masked. I can link you to that. I can link you to that if you want.
Yeah, no, that actually sounds cool. No wonder they had to take it out then, considering that was a kind of, you know, drastic change.
Yeah. Because this song never appears anywhere in actual Hat in Time.
Tale of a place, a deep forest, dark with grace. There he lives blooming inside a wild field of big eyes. And there he lives, skin so blue, his eyes shot red. The moon, the sky, tell him only lies. He doesn't know she waits inside. She lost her mind many years gone by.
You kind of just have to, except that's not there. They didn't even put it in, one of the remixes anywhere or anything. But yeah, this is actually sung by Hackett's voice actress. I can tell. Alright, so do you want to look at that later, or...?
I'll look at it later, we're in the middle of it.
Yeah. Alright, and right before our eyes, my alternate co-partner was killed off and thrown in the trash like nothing. If I remember correctly, in the actual files, Timmy's 3D model is actually labeled co-partner. Which is why I call him that here. This was the least dignified end I've ever seen someone be given. It was like pouring salt on an open wound. Never really got much of a chance to know them since he's from a different timeline. But he's friends with a different me, right? But I'll never really know. Timmy is dead. And without pawns to attempt reviving him anywhere in the building, because that's how co-op works. Neither him nor the Mafia boss will come back. I guess we never really talked much about you, did we? Seems like only one person cares that he's gone. Everyone else, well, let's just say he wasn't very good at making friends. I guess we just head for the incredibly cramped elevator now.
I'm pretty sure he's still the only Death Wish boss I haven't killed.
Okay, so I know why. Because of the way Hat Time's mechanics are, a fight like that is way more aggravating than it needs to be. Because Mafia Boss's fights, compared to all the other ones, relies very heavily on random chance. Because the sandbags that fall from above drop randomly. The electric discharge from his attacks go at random paces. It's hard to avoid it, especially when it goes much faster than usual, and there's much more of it happening.
I mean, that's not really the only reason. The other reason is that I was trying to do all the challenges within that fight all at once, and I was too stubborn to just let myself finish the fight just so I got a bit of it. No, I had to do everything at once.
Yeah. That's kind of a major reason as to why Death Wish kind of sucked for a lot of people. Apparently you're supposed to do each of those subtasks one at a time. It's like, no, we're not gonna do that.
Of course we're not. Who the hell is who's gonna do it so that we have to win the fight 3 times? No. We're gonna win it once and do everything at once. That's just how we gamers are.
Yeah, it's like, why go through this 3 times? One and done, bitch. Alright. So, these elevator sequences, I didn't do them after the second trial.
No, you didn't. We actually had like an animation thing, didn't we? Instead.
Yeah. When we got to trial 3, Hackett was on the spaceship, so that's kind of why I wound up doing that. I also wound up, eventually, adding those pre- and post-trial cutscenes instead, so there's also that as well. I think of these options, we've got, like, Cooking Cat and Mustache Girl talking to each other. Should I talk to everybody, or can we skip most of this? And just
you can skip it entirely if you want.
Okay. Let's just go over conductors, because he says something funny. Faster than light space travel, these elevators are still slow as dirt. Yeah, you probably know what that's a reference to. You know what that's a reference to, right?
I think it's escaping me.
It's Mass Effect. Faster than light space travel, but also these elevator loading screens are slow as hell.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right.
And would it kill Snatcher to requisition a bigger elevator? I can barely move in here. The other interesting one was Caw. Good work, fellow detective. This case is closed thanks to your contributions. You'd make a great Caw agent, even though you aren't a bird, or an adult. I have an inquiry. When will Snatcher decide to free us? Now, you only get one chance at this, so to get this specific interaction, you have to pick the correct answers. Well, I don't want to be here. None of us do. Do you not want to leave this prison immediately as well? I miss my friends. And this is where foreshadowing comes into play once again. The other agents. Do you think anyone knows we're here? We don't know what's happened outside. Snatcher refuses to tell us. We're kidnapping victims, yet nobody seems to care, as if it's just a normal thing. I mean, unless on this planet it probably is. It kind of is for you, but... Do you think the other agents might be? I can't stop thinking about it. He's worried his friends are dead. We'll be fine. If you have survived his dealings alone before, you will again. I apologize for that extremely depressing topic. You'll see your friends again, and so will I. No need for concern considering it is 14 against 1. Or is it 13 against 2? Are they working for Snatcher? The minion, I mean. That's a very valid question. So,
Never saw that interaction before, so that's kind of cool to see. Especially with the way you play the music, too.
Yeah, because it swaps from the sad music to the scary music. But the only way to get that interaction is to pick the specifically correct answers, but you only get one chance to talk to him. Because once you talk to him, then his prompt goes away. I probably shouldn't have done that, but oh well. Too late now.
Hi there, young one. I am from you may call me...
This guy works as an actual badge seller, but once you talk to him, the camera screws up.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm pretty sure I did that myself. Bum bum bum. Diddly.
Exit to the spaceship, because I don't think it's going to take me to Trial 2 if I hit next map.